It's quite funny. I'd say like a few years ago, I was like, oh yeah, you drive so much better because you're struggling and you like want to do your best. So you
Mm-hmm.
extract absolute maximum out of yourself. So you perform in order to do that. But I call bullshit on that now. And I think
Hello, folks, and welcome to F1 Fan Fiction, a show about F1 races brought to you by F1 fans for the F1 community. While we are not doing F1 races, you all know we've started this series called Fireside Chat, which thank you for all the love and support you've been giving us. This is yet another Fireside Chat with what actually started as a nice tradition on the last episode with a new host, as we now calling them, and no longer guests, because that's the beauty, because they also end up bantering with us throughout the episode. So this episode we've got someone who's redefined many odds, who's an inspiration to many youngsters thinking if they are probably a bit late into the sport or anywhere in their career to that matter. Someone who's an inspiration to, everyone who's trying to go through hard times as well. So let me just hand it off to our third host for the evening. Take it away, third host.
thank you for that. Nice to be here. My name is Advait Deodhar, and yeah, it's great to be on this show. I guess that's what we're calling it, and talking motorsport and Formula One and some of the racing that I do. I mean, I compete in European NASCAR. We just finished the season. I just finished 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I'm from Mumbai and I'm currently based in London.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Advait.
Thanks for having me.
All right. I think this gives us a good segue into the first question that we want to ask you about is EuroNASCAR, since you mentioned that. I think you are off from a very good season. You just participated in the 2021 season of the EuroNASCAR. And I guess you had one win at Brands Hatch, 2 poles, 5 top 5s and 6 top 10s?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I mean, I wouldn't count it as the best season because I had, of course, much higher expectations, and the idea was to fight for the championship outright. Had a win and 2 poles at Brands Hatch, and continued on from there onto probably my favorite circuit, which is Most in the Czech Republic. I finished second over there. And then after that, in the second race, when I was probably could have won that race, but I had an accident and for no fault of mine. And unfortunately, I think things went down because also in my personal life, there was a tragedy and that affected me big time. And yeah, the results just didn't come after that. And as much as this could have been a massive, massive year in terms of winning, probably like actually winning the championship, it didn't go to plan, but I guess that's motor racing and things happen. Yeah. And in some ways, of course, I want to learn a lot from this year, but I also want to try and forget about it as soon as I possibly can, and just come back with this redemption to really do my very best next year.
Sorry to hear about that personal tragedy. I'm sure it's gonna recoup.
Thank you.
But it's a bit ironic, as in the sad sense, your last race you were last, the second last race you were second last. Is there a theme to, if it's a last race, the positioning that's happening?
No, actually, it only got classified as last because I didn't finish either races. Okay. Unfortunately, I had mechanical issues. I never finished last, so I finished in the pit lane watching everybody else finish. Because this year there was so much bad luck due to mechanical issues as well. Right. And I had, the final race weekend, it was full prep. I'd done some extra testing on Thursday. Friday, things were going well. And in the final practice session, there was some clutch issues again. This is not the first weekend where I had it. And going into qualifying, there was just no drive. It just the clutch kept slipping. And so I somehow managed to put in a lap. I think it was 13th. And I had to retire and bring the car into the pit lane. So I would say it was not a proper qualifying, and there was some problem with the ball bearing inside the clutch And yeah, it was just a disaster. So I actually didn't finish the 2 races. So that's why I got classified as last and second last, because I was sitting in the pit lane, wiping my tears.
Yeah, no, we thought that that's just some way of, for you to just put out a statement.
Yeah. My precision level in driving is X.
Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. That would have been a good story if it was, but yeah.
Right. All right. So we wanted to know a little bit more about, Cal racing, how did that happen? And what's your advice about, other, people who want to get into the NASCAR in general, and how do you go about even finding a team for yourself?
So Cal Racing, I did part of the 2019 season with them. I didn't drive last year, and I did the entire season this year. They're an Italian team, and they're multiple champions in the past. They've won the championship, I think, thrice or 4 times, if I'm not mistaken. And I get along very, very well with the team, because when I started in 2019, I drove for 2 different teams in the first 2 rounds because I just didn't have the budget. So I was just being passed around as to wherever and who would take my little bag of gold. And then I ended up getting a very good deal with Carl. And things went well in 2019. So that's why I continued to race with them and wanted to win the championship this year.
No,
and because I speak Italian, because I went to university in Italy. So that also really, really helps.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Actually, since we're talking about EuroNASCAR, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about EuroNASCAR? Because I don't think a lot of people actually know that, Europe and NASCAR, they must be confused what's going on.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So NASCAR as a whole is, of course, the American NASCAR series, and that's the parent organization. You have various levels of NASCAR, but of course, the top series is the Cup Series and the Xfinity Championship, and that races in the States on your super speedways, and in Europe is part of the NASCAR community, but it's a completely separate entity. And so we don't race on ovals. We race on proper racetracks. So we race like Hockenheim, Zolder, Brands Hatch. We race on circuits. We don't do ovals. And the cars are quite similar to what you have, which they also race in Canadian NASCAR and in Mexican NASCAR, which are again separate organizations. And they're pretty awesome to race. We have 5.7 liter V8 big block engines, so they sound like $1 million. And
I can hear them already.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the LS7 engine. So for whoever, all the car geeks out there, the LS7 engine, this 5.7 liter V8 is quite a well-known engine, which is used in race cars and in a lot of road cars. And without the restrictor, I think you can easily get something like 700 horsepower out of it. But of course, to maintain the life of the engine, we have an air restrictor, and I think it varies anywhere between 410 to about 415 horsepower is what the power is. We have no traction control, no ABS. We've got a 4-speed gearbox, so it's as raw as it gets. It's completely down to the driver, and of course, there's a few things you can change on the setup, which makes a massive difference. But they're a lot of fun to drive, and the racing is extremely, extremely close. So I think it's some of the nice. It's any kind of tin top racing where it's very, very close. And they're big cars. We've got, of course, a space frame chassis, but above that, we've got a fiberglass body kit. So sometimes you do end up without a bumper. Because like they say, rubbing is racing, but it has to be within limits. But and also some of the drivers, there's such a high level of drivers in the series. I mean, this year, to name a few, even though he's an old guy, but he still got it. Jacques Villeneuve races, and he won both the finals.
EuroNASCAR, really?
He's racing with you?
Yeah, he's in another category, but he's in the same championship, and he won both the final races. And old man still got it. There's so many drivers who've raced in like Indy Lights and GP2. So in 2019, the main guy, I was nowhere near the top 2, but 3rd and 4th, we were fighting with each other. And Vittorio Girelli, he's raced in GP2, he's raced in GP3. He was, I think, an Audi factory driver. Then you've got another guy who won the championship, who was French F4 champion, Danish Thunder Cars champion. So there's some really, really awesome drivers in the championship, and we go to some great tracks as well. So yeah, that's EuroNASCAR in a nutshell.
No, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
When I first heard about you, I saw that an Indian driver is in NASCAR. I was a little confused, very honestly. And then I started looking.
How did that happen? Yeah.
So I came to the UK, of course, in 2015. One-way ticket, chased the dream after racing in India, and I always wanted to race Porsches. Like I'm a massive Porsche fan as a manufacturer. But I also love the motorsports. So the Porsche One Make Series, the Carrera Cup, and then the idea was to ultimately race in LMP1 back then was the plan, and move up the Porsche ladder. But unfortunately, that didn't work out because I needed some serious money, which was upwards of £200,000 a year. Didn't happen, and just struggling. Started reaching out to different series, and someone called Lucas Lasser, who's a driver, he got in touch with me. So I'm very thankful to him. He said, "Why don't you come and test the car? It's great value for money. The racing is amazing." Because to be honest, I didn't know very much about the series. So I have to thank one of the drivers called Lucas, who actually introduced me to the series. And I went and I tested the car with in I think it was 2018, and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So you must be you must dislike Jeremy Clarkson a bit, right? Because he's downright somewhat condescending to Porsche owners and Porsche lovers.
That is very true. I'm a huge Porsche fan. I love my Porsches. So as much as I love Clarkson, I'll let that slip. And it's Hammond. Hammond is a big Porsche fan, right?
He is,
Yep,
yes.
yep, that's right. He is.
Isn't he coming up with, or already has a series about like him starting a garage and like how he's gone to a Porsche factory or a Porsche car sale and gotten custom?
I don't remember. I haven't seen that.
Something popped up on my YouTube recently.
Interesting.
And I was like, interesting.
I'll look into it.
Sounds good. Sounds
So
good.
yeah.
Right. So, now let's, change our lanes a little. Let's talk a little bit about your early career in general. One thing we wanted to know, when were you bitten by the racing bug?
When, I guess, the day I was born. I don't know. When I was still in Beach Candy Hospital.
No, rumor has it that you are the 2007 Alonso versus Hamilton was that trigger point for you. But that's already out there. What's something that folks don't know that has gotten Advait into I knew I was going to do this.
We actually talked about this before. I reminded him, please don't say Aditya.
I don't know why it stuck, but I'm sorry. Advait, what got Advait into racing besides that?
Honestly, I mean, ever since I was a kid, it's always been cars and racing, but I never did it. I mean, I was just all talk and nothing, and I was like, oh, it's too expensive. And so, I mean, I did some like fun karting in like the Powai racetrack in Bombay, but like to be honest, I don't think I was very great, and it was just for fun. So I never really properly did anything. And then I went to university overseas, and I think being away from home and just being exposed to it, I was like, I grew up as a person, and like, this is what I really love. I mean, this is all I think about all day, and I said, I'm gonna give it a shot. And so I graduated and I came back to India and I started in the Formula LGB in 2012. So the bug had been there since I was a child. We don't know where it came from, but it was always there. But I only started it, I guess, very, very late.
Okay. So, what was that moment with? Because Hamilton and Alonso remember 2007 as a very different incident that's changed their careers, but. What was that one moment in that year that did it for you? It was like, wow, this is Hamilton.
I think the first race, I think just seeing this rookie go around the outside of Alonso in Albert Park, I think that cemented it for me. I mean, he didn't even have to finish a lap. And I was like, this guy's got balls and he's got he's a very gifted driver. And that really did it.
Right.
Because you don't do that on your first race. Yeah. So much confidence.
Yep. So, one question that we had was, why don't you just talk a little bit about, your early career in general, in the sense that you mentioned that like you got back from finishing your degree in Italy, and then you participated in Formula LGB. From what we understand, you initially were planning to go into Formula racing, or as you mentioned earlier, like Porsche Carrera Cup. So what was your early career into Formula racing, and how did that suddenly, I mean, we kind of know how it got into EuroNASCAR, but yeah, we want to know how did it lead up to there?
I mean, so first of all, I was very, very old when I started. I was 22. I'd never driven a Rotax or anything in my life. So I didn't have like Rotax karting background. I just like local karting, which I'd done for fun. And I wanted to be a Formula One driver. And that was the honest goal. I was like, I want to be an F1 driver. I'll find the money. I'll do whatever it is. But the few things that were against me is, number one, I was 22. Number two, I'm 6'4", so I'm very tall. So it's not easy being 6'4" and fitting into Formula cars. Right. And number three is I don't have $10-15 million to spare, which is what you need realistically to make it all the way. And but I was like 22-year-old guy with a dream, and I went back. I started with JK Tyre Formula LGB. I mean, I came in without driving, thinking I'm going to kick ass. I think I was like second last or something on the grid. I had no idea what I was doing. And so that was a slap in the face. But then, through the year, I mean, it was not much progress. And then I just started like really putting in all my effort into it. I got a simulator at home. I think that made a big difference for me. And then I think the best result I had in the first year was fourth at the final round. And that was after I'd got my sim and everything. So I saw massive jump. And then the year after that, I really worked hard until today. Still something which I'm quite proud of, because I haven't been able to do it after. Is I got full sponsorship for 2 championships in 2013. That's Formula LGB and MRF 1600.
That's awesome.
So I did both of those. I think I had 2 podiums in the 1600, and I think I had 4 podiums in the LGB. And I don't even know where I finished. I think 4th. Could have done better, but whatever. It was like my first proper year. So there was a massive, massive jump. And then 2014, then I was trying, of course, to I was doing nothing else. My sole focus was racing, trying to be the next F1 driver. and I was 24/7. That's all I was doing, trying to race sponsorship, reach out to people. And I really feel like I gave it everything. I was first trying to race in Formula Renault UK. I think I was like 180,000 pounds I was trying to raise. Didn't raise a single penny. And I met a lot of people, didn't raise a single penny. Then I continued with the season in India, and then I started to shift focus to China. So because that's cheaper and closer to home. So Formula Masters China series, which was called Formula Pilota before that. I started trying to raise money for that, which was, I think, 130,000 euros. Again, a hell of a lot of money. And I gave it. Honestly, I can say I gave it absolutely everything, because I was doing nothing else.
Right.
Luckily, one of my sponsors was very fond of me, continued for 2014. And even though the budget didn't come to go overseas, there was enough to do another season in MRF 1600 in India. So I did that. That season went very well. I came second in the championship and was on the podium in every single race, and pretty much started on the front row almost all races. And I had to miss the final because I had dengue. So that was quite a story.
Oh,
yeah. But luckily, myself and Tarun were like far ahead of the rest. And I still managed to get second, even though I missed the final round. Also did a guest race in this Toyota Etios Cup, which I won, which was quite cool. I'd never driven the car before. Yeah. On my debut, with guys would race that. So that was pretty cool to have won that race. And so I missed the second round because that was going to be in Delhi, but with the MRF final, but I had dengue. So 2014 was a pretty cool year because there was results, and I really realized, which I think all drivers who are listening to this, is you really need to build a name in the media, no matter what. That is so important. You could go and dominate every single race, but if you don't have a single newspaper article, it just does not help. So I had a lot of media coverage that year. So I thought, it's going to happen. I've got the results, I've got the coverage, I've got everything, and still didn't. And I was trying so much for then the Masters series in 2015. that didn't happen. And I tried to focus on Carrera Cup GB. I was like, let me shift to this. And yeah, I mean, it was a very difficult period, but but yeah, that didn't happen. And then in 2015, I was like, I'm not going to give up on this. Nobody over here is giving me a thing. So I literally, and this is the truth, I booked a one-way ticket to the United Kingdom in April and said, I'll go there and figure it out.
That's
Nobody
awesome.
in India knows anything about motorsport or wants to sponsor. So let me try something else, because I don't want to sit back and complain. So I think when you're in positions like that, you should try something. Just get out of your comfort zone. And yeah, I came here without a cent to my name to try and raise the money.
You've got some balls there.
Yeah, man. Overall, like listening to everything you've said, I see a theme here actually, that you in general have struggled for sponsorships in general in your career. And obviously, I think pretty much everyone knows this by now, that racing is a rich man sport, in the sense that you have to have good financial backing in terms of supporting your career, because otherwise, like, you can't get anywhere. Just talent can't get you anywhere. How did you manage all this? I mean, honestly speaking, like, first of all, racing itself requires a lot of dedication and hard work. And on top of that, like, kind of becoming your own manager and finding sponsorships. Yeah. How do you even like balance this?
So I have this, I always say in motorsport, no money, no honey. Literally, you can't do anything. You can't do anything without it. And it sounds very crass to say, but that is the harsh and honest truth. It is the honest truth. And like in India as well, we have so many talented drivers. You look at the national championship. I think I raced against some seriously fast guys, but there was just none of us had the budget to go forward. And I think why I guess I persevered and like continued is because I'm the kind of person, if I fixate on one thing, I absolutely give it everything. If I don't like it, I have absolutely no clue. I mean, you asked me to name 5 football players, I can't even do that. So that's how far removed from things I don't like I am. And it's just like a childhood dream. I've always wanted to drive cars, and I just love driving and love racing. And that's why I just said, I'm just going to keep going and just not going to let anything come in the way. There's many times you think you want to stop and it's just not possible. But if you want something bad enough, and not just racing, no matter what it is, just give it everything, because even if it doesn't work out, you'll get something which is much better than the current position you're in. So just give it everything, and the world works in mysterious ways. And yeah.
That's sweet.
Fair advice.
For our young listeners here who are probably guessing where to reach out to folks, what's your advice there? Like, this is the way to go about it.
The most important thing is you have to be absolutely relentless, because you have to, if you send out 1,000 emails or make 1,000 phone calls for sponsors, or reach out to 1,000 companies, like, the honest answer is you'll be lucky if you get 5 responses. Even if I would rather someone says no to me than says nothing.
Yeah.
And people say that, I've tried so much, and yeah, just the thing is just like, it's like a gun, just shoot everywhere. Hope
it sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Just hope it sticks. Hope it gets something, because who's to say where anything can come from? Because if someone's not interested, maybe they know someone else who's interested. So just spread your net as far and wide as you possibly can, and just don't get disheartened. You will get disheartened if things don't happen, but the idea is just do as much as you can. That's my advice. Don't just stick to one sector or just one group of companies. Just absolutely throw it out as much as possible. And it's not easy. It's honestly not easy. And I'll be very honest, I haven't raised anything since 2014. And it's so disheartening. And other drivers with sponsorship, and you think, what are you doing wrong? I mean, is there something that you're not doing right? And yeah, so just to all the youngsters out there, just try as much as you can, and don't ever give up. And be realistic as well. Be very, very realistic.
So there's an interesting theme that we've noticed over the 1 year stint that we've been doing this. JK Tires is a common name between quite a lot of drivers that we've spoken to, but that name never popped up with your stuff that we've read. So what's the story there? Because it felt like if it's an Indian driver, JK tires somewhere related to that driver.
Yeah, it seems like they're not sharing some love with you.
Yeah, not at all. Unfortunately, none of them are. JK, none of them are. I think there's many reasons for that, and believe me, I've tried. I mean, I think it's first of all great what they're doing. They're doing so much to actually even host the racing in India, and they have been all these years. So, I mean, hats off to them. Both of the manufacturers for doing it, but I didn't come through the karting rank, so I didn't do any JK Rotax karting or anything. So I'm relatively a new guy who came in. And whenever I have spoken to them about sponsorship, I mean, they've said that we don't do anything apart from the Formula One route. And the last conversation I had, I think it was 2019, off the back of what I would say was a very, very good season in 2019. Is when I spoke to them, they said that their backers, whoever the people who make the decisions at JKR, is that they want to basically back the next guy who's going the F1 route. Now, I don't know if that's some answer that has just been given to me to tell me to shut up, or if that's what the actual truth is. But yeah, that's what they said. That we're chasing the Formula One route, and no interest in this for now.
Yeah, right.
Makes sense.
Something that's been very interesting about you is you've done some real odd jobs. Like you've done something with BMW. You've done like a lifestyle shoot.
The brand lifestyle. Right?
Yeah, brand lifestyle. Was there any chance of any of that becoming something real, or was it just like sponsorship deal? Let's get the money to then go race.
I'd have done anything, honestly, to get the money. I'd have done anything. No, I think I've honestly done so many random things like coming here. But the BMW job is actually quite cool. So it's like a driving racing instructor, BMW instructor. So myself and another driver Lee Keshav, who's a very good friend of mine, we raced together, and him and I both went, and there was a shootout in India. A whole bunch of drivers came, and we got selected to go and become instructors. So we went to Germany, did the training, and we were supposed to be instructors in India. So that was more on the side, just because it's a really fun thing to do. You're basically teaching people how to drift and to drive M cars to the absolute limit. So that was for fun. It was kind of like a side job. And all the other things like that lifestyle partnership and all was just to build the name and hope something came from that.
Right.
And which
is important to associate yourself.
No, sorry, go ahead. You were finishing with that.
No, it's just important to associate yourself with different brands to try and just raise your name and spread your awareness about yourself.
And then was the stuntillating thing with Volkswagen. There was something like Volkswagen stunt driver stuff that you wanted to do, right?
Yeah, that was actually when I just started. I think that was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it's quite cool. I mean, first of all, Volkswagen do an amazing job in India with all the Polo Cup, the Vento Cup, the Ameo Cup. So I think they do a great job. And usually on the race weekends, they used to have the VW Polos, like a stunt team driving it. Right. And they'd have it at various other events just to do promo stuff. So I think it was just a way to like promote drivers and to have a shootout. So that was just something fun in 2013.
Nice. Yeah, so I think since we have been now talking about sponsorships a little, let's talk a little bit about one of your sponsors. That's TJB Super Yachts. I think you play a little, deeper role with them, and you are a sales and charter broker, if I'm not wrong. So, talk us about, how did this happen? Like, where did this get from?
So actually, TJB is the company I work with. I worked there since 2017 over here in the UK. They aren't a sponsor. We have a kind of deal. It's all my earnings that goes into. So it's my earnings, and of course, my company supports me a lot, and that's why I'm racing because of that. But that was also a chance thing, and I'm fortunate to be able to work there. Because I was at like a networking event here in the UK trying to like find people to sponsor me in 2016. And it was at a classic car event. And I met one of the brokers over there. We were standing next to this Ford GT40, which is 40 inches high.
Nice.
We're both about 6 foot tall, talking if we could fit into this car. And yeah, just things went from there. And I'd honestly at that point got sick of trying to search for sponsorship. And it was very depressing. when nothing is happening. And I think it was just all about timing. And I said, you know what, because I love boats, and I was like, I'm Indian. Why don't we discuss about me being like an introducer for the company or something like that? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And then I had to like chase them for 2 months to try and get a meeting. And yeah, things just went from there. Right. And I ended up absolutely chasing them, and then became a yacht broker. And that's how I've managed to race ever since.
That's nice.
Before the next question, there's some history with you and boats and sailing and stuff as well. So, what's up with what was up with the Hyderabad sailing club, and were you actively sailing? Because Hyderabad's almost landlocked. Like, you have to go somewhere to almost sail, right?
Yeah, so I've actually been a sailor since I was 7 years old. So I grew up from Bombay, and I grew up right next to the sailing club in Kulaba. So
awesome.
As much as I loved, I've basically sailed since I was 7 years old. And so that's so Hyderabad was just one of the places. I've sailed in Goa, Bombay, Chennai, all over. And that's just my background. I wish that would have been go-karting instead, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And so, so that's my background. I've been a sailor since I was 7.
Oh, sweet. All right. So, I mean, in terms of now the sailing thing, what is it exactly that you do as a sales and a charter broker then?
So I'm so I sell and rent out super yachts.
Okay.
And so of course rentals are in the Mediterranean and the Caribbean in the summer and winter. And of course selling it's selling and buying big boats. And so it's a very interesting job. I really, really like it. And you get to deal with some very interesting people who basically run this world, built up very large businesses themselves. So there's a lot to learn as well from the individuals that I'm fortunate to work with.
Right.
And I've been doing it since 2017 now.
Now, what's the similarity between the yacht world and the racing world?
Money.
Costs a hell of a lot of money. There you go. There you go. You answered it for me.
Both are billionaire club sports. Yeah.
Basically.
That's right.
I mean, look at Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi. For Monaco, they come on daddy's boat and park in the marina.
Exactly.
They get off the dad's 100-meter boats and go and drive race cars.
I get so, I mean, it's so funny because sometimes when the contract renewals are happening, they're also talking about the second seat and maybe an Aston or a Williams. And I'm like, these two are not going anywhere. Why is there even a discussion about these two?
Exactly. Honestly. Just to give people hope.
Yep.
False hope.
To keep the press churning, just so that there's something for the media to talk about.
Exactly.
All right, Advait. So one thing which I get is like sponsorships in general are difficult to get. It's a big stress. It's a big energy drain, I would say, for any driver. I'm sure that makes things difficult in terms of mental fitness a bit, I would say. So talk us a little about, how does the pressure of having to get sponsorships as well as like juggling your racing and managing both of these, how does it affect you mentally? How do you cope with it? And, how do you just deal with all the stress?
It's quite funny. I'd say like a few years ago, I was like, oh yeah, you drive so much better because you're struggling and you like want to do your best. So you extract absolute maximum out of yourself. So you perform in order to do that. But I call bullshit on that now. And I think it is so difficult to do that because you apply, number one, extra pressure on yourself, thinking that if you don't perform, you're not going to get sponsorship, and you're focusing most of the time on what can I do to like do better in order to perform, in order to get sponsorship, and it's you're moving backwards most of the time. So it is not easy, and it's very difficult, and it really lets you down when you put in so much effort. You do absolutely everything. You dedicate your life towards it, and you don't manage to get any funding, and you see others who are probably a lot slower than you who have fully backed seasons. So it's very, very difficult mentally. And I think, again, being on both sides, when I have had full budget in the past and basically not had budget since, I think you perform so much better when you have everything confirmed, because then you can focus 100% on yourself and on your driving and not have any distractions and not have any worries at the back of your head that say, if I don't absolutely dominate this weekend, I'm going to race next weekend because I have the budget, and I'm going to race after that because I've got a backer. So I definitely think that it's not easy going race weekend to race weekend, not knowing if you're going to be driving. Like in 2019, I mean, I sometimes didn't know till the Monday of a race week if I was racing or not. So that was extremely difficult.
Right. There's this other thing too, right? Like, you started at the age of 22, and as a layman, my thought is that people who start from maybe say their teens or even like 9 or 10 or whatever, like 7 years old, right? Since you've been sailing, your majority years of physical development is happening as part of the routine of getting into the cockpit and getting used to the car. But you having started at an age where mostly biologically your body's not growing as much now, what has been your physical routine and your physical fitness routine, and the changes that you've seen between what you have to keep up with versus some younger drivers who started at a very young age?
That's actually a very good point you mentioned, and people really don't think of that. But like you said, your formative years, if you have a particular routine, you're training certain muscles, your body gets used to it, and it just develops in that manner. And I think for motorsport, it's so important. Your core is extremely important. Of course, your neck is important. Of course, the way you hold the steering wheel, your hand movements, your upper shoulder, your forearm movements, that's all extremely important. And I think getting your body to adapt to that, it's not impossible, but you are on a back step compared to the other drivers who've been doing it for a very long time. So you do have to train that extra bit harder. And you have to find ways in which you can get your body to adapt to being in the car and being under that physical load. And I think for me, just in my particular cases, I'm a lot taller than 99% of the other drivers. I'm 6'4". So keeping my weight down was very, very important, because whether I like it or not, I come with added weight. And so keeping my weight down, but still keeping my strength up was very difficult to juggle the two. And so I think as a driver, I guess coming in late, you have to just work double as hard in order to get your neck, your core, your arms, your shoulders, your forearms, to get acquainted with the loads that you'll have in a car.
That insight that you gave us, Advait, about mental and physical fitness. Before transitioning on to the next topic, I mean, what's your 2 cents on both mental and physical fitness to any age group at this age who's either actively racing or looking into getting into racing?
I think it's very important to focus on both of them and put in a lot of effort. Physical fitness, the drivers need to really, really raise their game, because the important thing about racing is no matter what form it is, you need to be 100% focused on the driving, and whatever physical demands should be automatically handled by your body. So the moment you think, oh, I'm a bit tired, you're already losing, even if it's 5% of concentration.
Right.
And believe me, that makes a difference. So that's why your body should be such a high standard of physical fitness that it automatically just bears all the physical load on it.
That's a good point.
And because like I said, the minute you're feeling tired, you're like, oh, you've already lost a bit of concentration there. And that's why mental fitness as well is so important, in the sense that in both on track and off track, if things aren't going your way, you still need to keep on track. You still need to keep your head in the right space to make sure that it's just never say never in the sport until you cross the checkered flag.
Right.
And off track as well, it's very, very easily to get demoralized when you're trying to raise funding, when you're trying to perform, and it's a very demanding sport, and it's very, very hard on you. And you have to make sure that you don't get demoralized, because to be honest, more often than not, you will get demoralized because of how difficult it is to get the actual support and backing behind you. But just think of the fact that when it clicks, there's no better feeling. So it's well worth it.
Right. Nice.
Yep.
One quick thing, we noticed this. I think you have a case of, going from being a spectator into the cockpit as such. I think there is a photo that you had taken of Monaco some time back, and I think that was before your racing days.
Yeah.
And then I guess you later in your career you have ended up in a yacht with Daniel Kvyat on a race weekend. So
Yeah.
how did that happen?
Again, you gotta just hustle and try to make stuff happen. I did like some volunteer, like just to get to try and network. So when I was already in the UK, I like reached out to the people at Amber Lounge, which do like a lot of the hospitality and the big F1 parties at the race weekend. And I reached out to the person and I was like, I'm trying to make my way and I want to be there and come and network. And the person who owns it is a sister of ex-F1 driver Eddie Jordan. And so, so she had me. I was there at Abu Dhabi and at Monaco, and went to try and meet people over there to try and get some funding. Unfortunately, I came back with just a picture and no money.
I think not too bad still. At least you have the bragging rights.
Yeah, good memories.
Yeah, because that first photo was somewhere on like out of the hill, just seeing probably the race back down.
Yeah, no, we went as students with we drove in the night. We had to sit on the hill and watch the race. I think like 40 euros for a ticket. We went there at the previous night to go and get a space. And I literally sat on a rock and I watched the race.
Yeah, and it was so beautiful. I was telling Sarang too when we saw that photo, because it was from there to almost like I think the turn where Leclerc crashed this year. Yeah, exactly. Where you've got the yacht and you're on there with Yacht. But you've driven on tracks as you said, like right, as part of NASCAR. It's not the ovals, it's the tracks. And coming on to some bits about like F1 and racing and as such, having driven on Spa, right? There's been this entire new debate, and it looks like it's going to take place next year, where going up on Eau Rouge into Radion, the barrier is going to be changed, right? So having driven there now, what's your take on that whole segment going up?
So interestingly, I haven't raced around Spa. It's only been in like a passenger car, and this is before. And this was prior to racing, actually. So as much as I want to, I haven't raced around Spa. In Belgium, we raced at Zolder, which is the XF1. So I saw Spa in the background. Quite a while back. I noticed that. So what they're planning to do is, of course, the barrier. And a lot of the drivers are saying to also make it a gravel trap outside of the racing, basically off the circuit pit, because you carry so much speed through there, and then drivers happily cut the corner. Yeah. Because in so many cars, it's absolutely flat out, and that's very, very dangerous. Right. And unfortunately, the Hubert crash as well. They lost it at the top of the hill. There have been some horrible crashes. I think it was in Jack Aitken had a very bad crash in what was it? Europe, some GT in a Lamborghini. Right. I'm not sure which championship, because again, someone dropped it at the top of the hill. So what they need to do is bring back the gravel trap over there. So there is a risk, because even though in single seaters it's flat out and drivers say it's not a corner, but in e-cars you've got to be brave, and you can have a very, very bad accident if things go wrong. So that's why the gravel trap, to try and kill some speed, and which is so they need to do that.
But that corner feels like there is that feeling of lift off when you're almost up Radion and getting onto that main straight, right? Was your experience similar?
It's when I went there again, this is before I started racing. I just wanted to just go and see it, and it is just unbelievable. I mean, when you come out of the hairpin, you're looking down. You're literally looking down, and you don't realize how much of a decline it is. And as soon as you hit the bottom and you're going upwards, you can't see the top. And it is. I don't think pictures do even 25% of justice to as to how steep it actually is going up Eau Rouge. And I can just imagine in a race car what a phenomenal feeling that must be.
Yeah, I think there should be a petition to get EuroNASCAR on Spa then in this case.
Yeah, but I actually think what is better, what people don't realize, I think Pouhon is now a better corner than Eau Rouge, because Eau Rouge in a Formula 1 car at least is flat.
Yeah,
look at Pouhon,
it's flat.
You're going downhill into a double left-hander, and Formula 1 cars, they downshifting from 8th or 7th gear, down a gear, literally turn in and flat at 292 minimum speed, which is, as a driver, I can't wrap my head around that. So I think that's a more exciting corner now.
Yeah. No, I totally agree about your point about Puhan. Like, I'm a very like hobbyist amateur sim driver as such, but whenever I'm driving on Spa, like the turn I find most difficulty in is always Puhan. Like, I always know what line to take from there. It's just so difficult to decide.
it's you got to be so brave in an F1 car. Imagine 293, I think, was minimum speed
on that one. Yeah. Yep. Hey, a quick side segment on the sim thing that Sarang mentioned. So I know you've been a big advocate of sim racing, and probably you got a bit late into your career into sim racing. But what if, sure, you started driving at 22, but what if you had a sim set up since 15?
I think sim racing is so important for all drivers, and whichever of these young guys come and ask me that, I want to start racing and I'm moving into this, the first thing I say is, get a simulator, because although it's not the real thing, you still get a lot of the feeling. You learn your lines, you learn throttle control, you can to some extent modulate your braking, your steering inputs, and just learning the racing line. And when you're racing with other drivers, not with AI, your racecraft improves as well. So I swear by sim racing, and that made a big difference to me. It made a massive difference, and I push it to everyone. And I do a lot. I haven't this year, but I did a lot of sim racing last year as well. And I try and spend as much time as I can when I get the opportunity on the sim.
Nice. Yeah, makes sense. All right. So getting back to F1 a bit. So our previous guest, who was Aditya Patel, who was here, he mentioned that he is not a fan of the Buddh International Circuit at all, and he doesn't really like that. But I guess you have a different opinion to him, I guess, from what we have heard. So, what makes you like the track, and what about it? What are the features that you really like about it?
So there's few things which I do agree with Aditya, in the sense that I don't like the fact that it has two long straights, which is just unnecessary. I mean, these straights are, the back straight is 1.2 km or something like that.
Yeah.
It is so strong, and I think it's unnecessary. But once and then there's another short straight after that, but it's just the back section, which I think is incredible. Once you're done with the back straight and you go right and you go downhill, and that from that up to the end is amazing. So I'd say the second half of the circuit is phenomenal, but I just don't like the two straights, because they're not necessary, and they're just no.
Now that you say that, what are your thoughts on the upcoming Jeddah circuit, which almost feels like an oval with just
straights?
It is so straight. That circuit's so straight.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to say this, but everything in Saudi Arabia has to be straight.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's hope Formula One brings about some change for them. But
they're not even allowed to wear beyond a certain set of clothing is what the last news was. So
at the track,
it's shocking. Everyone, Formula One is like, we race as one, but anyway.
Anyways,
but I'm not. I don't know what that's going to be like. It's probably going to be a very Baku style situation that we could either get lucky and get some incredible races, or it's going to be a snooze fest. I don't think it's going to be in between. It's going to be either or of the extremes. Because that's what you usually get with these kind of circuits.
Fair enough. Talking about circuits, Catalonia, I think that's one of the driver favorites, definitely not the crowd favorite, I would say, especially I guess because of the chicane right before the last corner. Opinions about the chicane? I think you have driven on different configs which doesn't have the chicane, right? So like, what's your opinion about it?
I haven't raced around Barcelona, but I've done a lot of sim racing around it.
Okay.
And I really love Barcelona. I can imagine from a driver's point of view, and I know a lot of the drivers, like friends of mine who raced there, and they say it's just such a fun circuit to drive on. I think the last corner, they should get rid of the chicane, like the old layout, because you carry so much speed getting out of that last corner. So it's probably a lot nicer without the chicane.
Isn't there some EuroNASCAR or some Euro event which does race on Catalonia with a different config?
No, so we race at Valencia. So I've raced in Valencia, not
that's
at,
the one I'm mixing
which is
up.
actually,
Okay.
which is a MotoGP circuit, and there's a lot of touring car races,
Right.
and it's a super nice circuit, especially that first corner, which is a very, very fast left-hander. But yeah, so we race around there, which also have different configurations, but we don't do Catalonia.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yep.
And then, speaking of the season, right? I mean, we started off just chatting about how today is going to be with Hamilton as well. You've always been a Hamilton fan, but more so recently also becoming or growing a fan of Max Verstappen. So this season, where are the loyalties lying now?
So I've been a Hamilton fan, as you know, since then, but I'm in a very difficult position because I love Max. Oh,
right.
what a superstar this guy is. I mean, he is just as big a Hamilton fan I am. I mean, I really don't know who I'm supporting this year because Max is he's on another level. I think from the minute he walked into Formula One, everyone's seen that. Even I actually watched quite a bit of the Formula 3 season that he did. And back then as well, you knew he was special, but the way he's just everything about him is, I think people who don't know Max Verstappen need to watch Mexico going 3 wide, outbreaking the guys on the inside and just getting both of them into there just shows Max Verstappen. And I think he is the most exciting thing in Formula One that's been there for a very long time.
Definitely.
That's come in a very long time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think after the dominance that Hamilton and Mercedes have had, I think people deserve it, I would say, in the sense that, it's fun. It's awesome that we saw him winning 7 World Series. But at the same time, from the perspective of the audience, it had become a bit boring, So I think it's great that we have this youngster out there, who's really challenging the veteran.
No, that's true. And it's I mean, this season is going to go down like 20 years from now. People still talk about Hakkinen and Schumacher season. Or Senna, 30 years later, Senna, Prost. This is without a doubt one of the most exciting seasons Formula One has ever seen, where 2 of the best, probably among the best in history, are going head to head and just raising their standard. I mean, look at these guys. They're usually 10, 15, 20 seconds ahead of cars in third place when things are clicking for both of them. And to see them just drive on a different level and to drive so aggressively and race so hard we're very fortunate to be able to witness that.
Yeah, and Sarang and I've spoken about this in our previous episode too, but like it's the evolution of Max's mental, calmness and resilience and matureness that's occurred over the years now, right?
Right from pushing Ocon to where we are now, so
I think Max, like he's been very hot-headed, and I think the further we go, the stronger he gets. And I think one big turning point, and tell me if you agree, is Turkey last year, where he was behind Perez, and Max was so much faster. Ooh. And I was actually watching it with some friends, and I said, he's going to drop it. He's sticking too close to Perez. And I called it like, I think 3 laps prior, because it was so wet. And a lot of drivers don't. Max notice this in the next wet race. Max, even in the wet, uses a lot of the curb. And a lot of drivers, as a driver, you try to avoid the curb as much as possible. But I don't know what he does, and he uses a lot of curb. And I was watching that race, and I was like, he is going to drop it. He's too aggressive. And going behind Perez around, I think pretty much almost flat out in the dry, but in the wet, he was too close to him. And sure enough, he dropped it on his own. And he didn't need to. He didn't need to try and overtake him.
Exactly.
Outbraked him. And if you think of that race and post that, it's a very different Max. I feel like he really stepped it up in terms of knowing where to attack after that race.
I mean, even yesterday, right? Like he was almost gonna get into science on that lap 1 after the straight, but he knew when to back off, and then he was like, "I'll go wide with it."
Exactly.
So Mazepin's out of the answer here. So before you say Mazepin, who are the 2 drivers that you think probably shouldn't have been here, and someone else, either from F2 at this point or someone who's been replaced, should have been in this year's lineup?
I think Nicholas Latifi does not deserve to be in Formula One. I mean, he's not won anything in junior series. He's just there because his father's writing a big fat check. So he undoubtedly, I mean, he has absolutely no right to be in Formula One. There's so many more talented drivers that should be there. He's one. Who else would he say? I mean, I think Bottas overstayed his welcome in Mercedes. They should have dropped him a while ago. But I have I just can't stand Bottas and his. He's the most undeserving seat. But I think for sure Latifi has absolutely no right to be there. And it's tough to say about the others. I mean, like for example, between Kimi and Giovinazzi, should Kimi have gone last year? Is Giovinazzi doing a good enough job? It'll be good to see next year. When
Zhao's coming in,
so that's pretty much a done deal with Guang Yuzu coming in.
I think his team's paying like 25 million or something.
25 million or more than that, something like that. It's a massive amount of money to be the first Chinese driver. I think he's got family money as well. But Zhou versus Bottas should be interesting.
Yep, that's right. Quite interesting.
I'm laughing because I'm not expecting anything from Bottas. I think he's made his engine collection. He's found his alternate career as a engine parts dealer this year.
Honestly, it's really the most undeserving seat of Formula One.
All right. All right. So as we get to the tail end of the show, one thing we wanted to ask was, what's next for Advait? What's next in racing? What's going on in 2022 for you?
So I want to, I like I said, this has been a very, very difficult year, and things didn't go well, and I wanted the year to have gone very differently on track. So I want to do EuroNASCAR again next year, and that's the plan. Something else comes along, great, but my full focus is on the EuroNASCAR Championship, and I look forward to the season starting in April in Hockenheim.
Nice.
Awesome.
So
So we've got two nostalgia questions. I'm going to ask one. Sarang's going to ask one. There is this statement by you that you've always wanted to crash into one of those house parties in Chennai on ECR. This is going way back.
Where did that come from?
This is going way back. So has that happened for you yet?
I don't remember saying anything like that. But no, I don't remember saying anything like that.
We've done a deep scoop, man. We've done a deep scoop.
I'd like to go to some night, one of those beach houses in ECR sometime.
Somebody who's listening, please make this happen.
Yes. And Sarang's got one for you too.
Okay. I think there's this one celebration that we used to do with Anish Gohil, which is the headstand leg grab.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, so Anish is a friend of mine who also he's my spotter, and he helps with sponsorship and everything. And I don't know where he got it from, to be honest. I think he saw some American NASCAR race where the spotter did that with the driver, and he said, I'm going to do headstand. I was like, dude, you don't have the core power to do it. He's like, trust me, I'm going to do it. And he did it. And I think he was almost falling over and started to hold his hands, but kudos to him.
Awesome. All right. This was fun. Folks, thank you for listening to the whole episode. Your parting thoughts are gonna come from our third host, who's gonna take it away. But we at F1 Fan Fiction are signing off. This is Akash,
and this is Sarang.
Advait, take it away. Whatever you want to tell to our audience, the floor is yours.
Yeah, firstly, thanks a lot, Akash and Sarang, for having me. I've really enjoyed this. I know we've delayed it by a bit, but great to be on here. It's been really fun talking to you guys, and it's great to see what you all are doing. And I look forward to keeping in touch. And for everyone listening, all the drivers out there, just keep going, just never give up, and then please provide all the support you can for my 2022 campaign. And we're gonna go for gold and nothing less.